You type something unusual into YouTube. Why do I feel guilty when I am not working? Because the moment you try to rest, something strange happens. Your body is sitting still, but your mind feels like it is breaking a rule. You check your phone. You think about unfinished tasks. You feel like you should be doing something useful. The uncomfortable truth is this: that guilt is not coming from laziness. It is coming from training. You were never taught how to rest without feeling irresponsible. You were taught how to produce. By the end of this conversation, you will understand why your brain treats rest like a mistake, why the modern work culture quietly programs this reaction into people who think they chose it. Because the real question is not why you feel guilty when you stop working. The real question is who benefits from you feeling that way. In the early 1900s, a cultural shift happened in industrial economies. Work stopped being seen as something people did. It became something people were judged by. Sociologists studying labor culture found something surprising. The language around work slowly changed from productivity to morality. People were described as hardworking, disciplined, valuable. But the opposite descriptions were moral judgments: lazy, unmotivated, useless. Once that shift happened, something subtle entered the human brain. Work was no longer just activity. Work became character. That is the foundation of the toxic productivity mindset. And once your brain absorbs that idea, rest stops feeling neutral. Rest begins to feel like a character flaw. Which is why the moment you stop working, a quiet signal appears: you are not doing enough. The strange part is this feeling does not come from the work itself. It comes from the meaning attached to work. The moment productivity becomes a moral signal, resting begins to feel like moral failure instead of biological recovery. The real mechanism beneath the search "why do I feel guilty when I am not working" has a name: productivity conditioning. It begins earlier than most people realize. School rewards output, finish assignments, get good grades, be productive. But something important is missing. Students are rarely taught how to rest with intention. They are taught how to avoid falling behind. That pattern continues into adulthood. Jobs reward speed, companies reward availability. Digital tools remove the boundary between work and life. Eventually, the brain forms a simple equation: working equals safety, resting equals risk. Once the brain learns that equation, something subtle happens. Rest triggers anxiety instead of recovery. Your brain did not confuse rest with laziness by accident. It was trained to. To understand why this conditioning sticks, imagine a kitchen smoke alarm. Its job is simple: detect danger and alert you. But imagine a smoke alarm that was trained in a kitchen where cooking happens every hour. Eventually it stops distinguishing between danger and normal activity. The alarm triggers constantly. Your brain does something similar with productivity signals: deadlines, notifications, messages, expectations. These signals fire so often that the brain begins interpreting stillness as abnormal. When nothing is happening, the brain thinks something is wrong. That is work guilt psychology. Your mind treats rest the way a smoke alarm treats smoke, a warning signal. Your brain learned to treat stillness as danger because it was trained in an environment where productivity never stops. You see this pattern in quiet moments most people ignore. You sit down to watch something and reach for your phone after 3 minutes. You take a day off but keep checking work messages. You try to relax on a weekend and suddenly feel pressure to improve yourself. Or this moment, you finish everything on your to-do list. Instead of satisfaction, your brain asks a strange question: what should I be doing next? That question appears when the overworking culture rewires your sense of rest. And when this pattern runs long enough, people begin confusing exhaustion with productivity. They start believing constant activity is proof they matter, which raises a deeper question: what would rest feel like if your brain stopped interpreting it as failure? The answer to "why do I feel guilty when I am not working" becomes clearer when you see one important misunderstanding. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. Rest is the condition that makes productivity possible. Think about how athletes train. Professional runners do not train at full speed every day. Their performance depends on recovery cycles. Muscles rebuild during rest. Strength appears during recovery. Without rest, training stops improving performance and starts destroying it. Your mind operates the same way, but modern work culture removed the recovery phase. Instead, it promotes constant motion, which means many people are trying to operate their brain the way a runner would train: full speed every day. That is not discipline. That is structural exhaustion. The shift is simple but powerful. Stop viewing rest as the absence of work. Start viewing rest as part of the work cycle itself. Rest is not time stolen from productivity. It is the phase that makes productivity possible. When you adopt that mental shift, something interesting happens. The guilt begins fading. Because the brain stops interpreting rest as abandonment of responsibility, it begins recognizing rest as preparation. Tomorrow you will stop working again at some point. Maybe it will be evening. Maybe it will be a short break during the day. The moment will feel familiar. You will close your laptop. You will sit still. And for a second your brain might send the same old signal. You should be doing something. But now there is a pause between the signal and the reaction. Inside that pause lives a new question. If rest was never supposed to feel guilty, what else in your life has been mistaken for laziness when it was actually recovery? Think back to the first time someone made you feel lazy for resting. What happened? What did they say or expect from you? If this pattern felt familiar, the next conversation might connect something deeper. It explores why high achievers often feel empty even when they succeed.